Hi.
Hi, Kathy. How you doing?
It's Cinemondo, and we're back.
Yes, it's just Kathy and I talking about. We're going to review a movie that
A
we
movie
just.
that's getting a lot of buzz. Like, I've
Oh,
never seen a movie that has completely blanketed everywhere I go like this movie has. It just sort of came out of nowhere and became the movie to see. It's
yeah,
crazy.
and it's a Netflix film,
Yeah.
and which usually means a kind of a large budgeted film that isn't very
Mhm.
good. I mean, we've seen plenty of those.
Nice.
Some. What's that?
Nice.
Yeah, well, it's just they have the track record's not great, but it's wonderful
Mm,
that this one is getting lots of
yeah.
press, positive press, great
Yeah.
reviews, like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes,
Oh my
98%,
god.
and
Everywhere.
just huge reviews, and really kind of a star-making turn by the main actor Glen Powell.
Yes.
And the film's called Hitman. It's written directed by Richard Linklater, who's done Dazed and Confused and the
Great filmmaker.
Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, all the really a quality
Yeah.
filmmaker
Yeah.
from Texas. This film
Yeah.
is set in New Orleans, so it's another sort of southern film in a
Cool to
way.
see something shot somewhere kind of, relatively unique, and that they're
Right.
not even just shooting it there to be somewhere else. They're shooting it as New Orleans, which was pretty cool. I really like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
and
didn't Glen Powell co-write this, or did he? Did he co-write this?
gosh, I think he might have been involved in this. Yes, you're right. It was
Okay.
co-written with Glen Powell, so he is also the co-writer of it with Linkletter. So, a really great sort of calling card of him. We've seen him before in other movies. Certainly,
Oh,
he was
he's
in
still kind of been in big stuff. I mean, he
yeah,
was
Top
in
Gun
Top Gun,
Maverick,
Maverick,
right?
right? And that was huge.
I think he's going to be in the summer movie Twisters. Sort of that. I think he's in that. So kind of big budget sort of summary films, but
Yes.
this is a smaller movie, kind of a relationship movie based on a true story
Right.
by a real person by the name of Gary Johnson, who was just a professor at a local university, but he moonlighted at night as a fake hitman.
Great
And
setup.
right, so
Amazing, great setup. That he
he's the
wasn't
guy.
really a cop, but he just kinda helped him out with, like, putting the surveillance on them. Like, he wasn't undercover at all. He was just kind of the tech guy in the van who's listening and looking at the computers and that kinda stuff, which I thought was a great idea.
Right, but then the guy that was doing the undercover stuff, his name is Jasper, played by Austin Amelio.
He was great.
He was really good.
He
He
almost
could,
stole it, really.
yeah, and he has some great scenes at the end.
So good.
Anyway, something happens, and then he's fired, and Gary Johnson is like thrown into this situation as
Or
a
he's put
total
on leave for a
neophyte.
second. He was put
What's
on
that?
leave for he was put on leave for a second because he
Right,
did something untoward, like, and so they had to kinda put him in the background for a second because he got bad press. So they
right,
kinda put him in the van now, and
right,
they had Gary kinda, "You go out there," and he's kinda like,
right.
"What?" Like, and he's not sure what to do, but he has listened to many, 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 many of these hitman setups because that's what they do. So
He
he kinda knows
knows.
the drill.
It's all about going in and talking to somebody who wants to hire hitman to
Yeah.
kill somebody,
Right.
usually a spouse or a
Yes.
boyfriend or a coworker, whatever it is. And so it's all about going in there and getting them to indict themselves and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. To incriminate.
get,
Yeah.
incriminate, here's the money, and then boom, okay, we
Yes.
can go in and arrest them. So that's what he
Exactly.
does,
Yeah.
and he's good at it. I mean,
That's
really
what was
good at
really
it.
funny. I
Yeah.
love like, then we're gonna be talking some spoilers here, so you guys, it's easy to
Yes.
watch. You can go watch it. And there's,
Right.
there you should watch it. We're gonna spoil it, so that's part of the fun is some of the surprises and twists. But I love, and part of this is the actor. Like he can look dorky and then go instantly smoking hot, like literally just by a change of expression. It was really impressive. So when you see him, he's really super dorky at the school. He wore these terrible jorts, like jean shorts were just terrible.
Yeah.
Men out there, don't wear denim shorts ever, ever,
I
ever.
know.
And I put in khaki shorts also, but I get that some people like them because they're very cool and they feel
And
good.
comfortable or
But
whatever.
I
Yeah.
still hate them. But he looked really bad. He had like the short sleeve print shirt, button up shirts. He had the glasses and the hair was kind of, not that great. So he looked
He
terrible.
and he's driving a kind of a beat up Honda Civic,
Yes.
so which is kind of a running joke throughout the film. But even later on, like some of his students,
Mhm.
Yeah,
I love that.
when did our press get so hot?
Yeah, because as it's going by, he's getting this more confidence and the hitman persona that's so confident and strong and kind of bad boy is kind of like leaking over into his persona. The confidence is coming out. He's not wearing the glasses. He got cooler clothes on. So
Right.
I love how they made it pretty subtle, but that performance by him was so perfectly modulated. I couldn't believe how good he was. Like when you see him on screen, it was literally like just his face does a little shift and instantly you knew who he was. Like that was a outstanding, insane performance. I was blown away. That was the best thing about this, was just watching.
I was going to say he is the reason to watch the film. I mean, it's just interesting to see a guy that you've seen before in other movies sort of take the star turn and really go with it and really be able to push this home, which is a really hard thing to pull off, because I'm sure there's a lot of embellishment to the true story. It's based on a true story, but there's a lot of things that, when you think about it, really can't happen in the real world. And I think it was done just to make the movie funnier, more interesting, have a better scenes,
it was based on not a biography.
I'm sure. I think Gary Johnson, the real Gary Johnson, died in 2022, and he was 72 years old. Wow. So that means a lot of this stuff happened in the 70s and 80s, pre cell phones. And there's a very funny scene where there is a cell phone used. That really didn't happen because that really didn't happen. They didn't. Well,
everything at the end didn't happen, which I thought was funny during the credits. They said, and we added this, but we made it up for fun.
Oh, gotcha.
I like that they showed him all the things he did, and then they said, but
right. Oh, yes. Right. That's true. And Adria Arjona plays Maddie Masters, who is the woman who he falls in love with her because she wants to kill her husband, who's just a real asshole. And the movie sort of goes from there. But what's good about the movie is his performance. And
I like some of the supporting cast, like you were talking about. Jasper, the character Jasper is great. I like his cohorts in the van were really funny. I like them kind of reacting to him. Right. They were great. I do feel like the weakest point, and I hate to do this, but it was her. I just thought she was one note terrible. And I thought maybe the problem with the superficial character was part of the gambit. See, here's where I feel like I really enjoyed the movie, but I feel like it was way too linear, way too obvious, because they have a really awkward, obvious conversation with his ex-wife where he talks about sometimes if you want to be someone, you just have to think about being a person, then you will become that person. They had this, and you're like, oh, thank you for explaining this to me. Right.
There was some parts. Yeah, and also I think that they're, even though they're two beautiful people, I thought that their relationship, I got bored with it pretty quickly. Yet they kept on with the sexy. I was going, this is not progressing the story forward at all. And it's a good hour into the movie before you start getting into the meat and sort of the interesting stuff, the twists that happen. And to me, there's like, the first hour, I'm sort of like, well, when's this going to get going? Then there's a great like half hour, which is really fun. And then it's the denouement, the ending sort of is a bit kind of falls flat for me. So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I think when they brought her in, I was sensing a body heat vibe. I thought she's coming in. She wants someone to take the fall. She's going to seduce him. She was set up as like this uber sex, like she's basically just a sex doll. She was like overly, like everything she said and did was like just infused with sex.
Wearing the
nobody acts like this. Oh my God. I was just cringing.
That was awful. Why is this there? And this is so like, it's so cringy, but also so like done 1,000 times before. It was supposed to be done as a joke. Well, see, it just didn't work.
That's where I thought, okay, I thought if it's body heat and she's just trying to completely, and he did look a lot like William Hurt, I thought, other than that. So, body heat, she was super seductive and pulled him in and talked about how her husband was abusing her and he needed to die. And so I thought, well, she's tried to hire him once already. Now she can drag him into as a seductress, get him to kill her husband.
Right.
As a professional and do it right. And then she'll turn on him and he'll take the fall and then she'll get away with it and get her $1 million. And to me, that would have been better, even though it had been done before. At least we got a twist. But this was so surface and linear. It drove me crazy. It was like,
Yeah.
no, she really is just this total sex pot who's just turned on every second of the day. And she's, pulling him in and she really loves him. And I'm like, these people are not in love. There was no chemistry, even though I had all of these sex scenes. I was not buying it for a second. And maybe
I
that's
didn't
why I thought it
either.
was cynical. Then also, the husband was terrible. I didn't see him do anything that bad. I mean, he came out and went, "You're with another guy," but he did not deserve to die. Jasper did not deserve. Like, that was the other turn. Like, let's get into that. Like, all of a
Right.
sudden now they're sociopathic killers out
Right.
of
Like,
nowhere.
why? Yeah. And so going back to the husband,
Really
like, yeah,
bothered
he's
me.
upset. And there's a scene out in front of this club where Gary, who's now Ron, and Maddie are walking away, and her husband, they're not divorced yet.
No,
She said that they were divorced, but they're not divorced.
no, just
So
a lie.
clearly,
Another body heat lie, right?
yeah. Right.
Just
So
body heat.
he's pissed off, and I get it, and but then he wants to kill her, and so all that kind of stuff, the machinations happen. But at the end, when Jasper, who's the cop, finds out about the ruse and wants in on the money because there's $1 million insurance policy once the husband dies, they decide to kill him. For sure, she drugs him by putting some drugs in his drink.
What drugs? Who has those drugs? That's all right, first of all, you're getting involved with a woman who wanted to pay to get her husband killed.
Yeah.
Right? And he lets her off the hook.
Right.
Then you're still, for some reason, okay with the fact that she did kill him in his sleep, shot him.
Yeah.
You're talking about a woman who bought a gun for protection, then went over to her husband's house and killed him while he slept. Then you're still okay with it. Then you're with your partner who has a right and is right about all of it, that you should not be doing any of this. And that if you wanted to be quiet, like Jasper, unfortunately, obnoxious as he was correct.
He was correct because he also was going to he covered for Gary in earlier scenes. Like, he could have just totally blown, just blown the whole thing. And Gary would in all kinds of trouble, accomplished for murder, all this kind of stuff, but he doesn't do it. But then he gets a bag put over his head after he's drugged and suffocates.
Well, okay, so let's just unpack that. So here's the hitman who's never killed anyone. He makes a big scene about, "I've never killed anyone," so he finally comes clean. They both lied to each other the whole time. Then she drugs a guy without telling him beforehand she was going to do it, and he's kind of like, "What's happening?" And then he falls down, and he's like, "What?" So he's still in love with the woman who killed her husband in his sleep, tried to get him a hit on him, and drugged a man, and probably almost killed him. Then he's all of a sudden like, I guess we're going to have to kill him. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like,
because he's a racist or he's whatever he was.
He didn't do anything that wrong. And so I was very bothered by the fact that these characters went fully corrupto at the end and didn't even doubt each other. And then we have this ridiculous
I know.
the epilogue. What would you call the epilogue where they're happily married, and I guess they got their $1 million and bought this nice house, and they have 2 adorable kids, and she has these terrible bangs, and it's like, now we're happy. And there wasn't even this 1 second where they kind of give each other a side eye, like, can I trust her? Like, why? Because there was no reason that any of those people needed to die. I didn't feel any sympathy. I mean, I was like, what are they doing? It drove me crazy. And so I'm like, were we supposed to be rooting for them? Because I was not.
I was not either. At the end, I was I'm not, I'm not a prude or anything like that. I'm just like, there should be some. At the end of it, I felt like they shouldn't be getting away with this.
No,
and yet they killed a cop. Which is like, you're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. You're eventually going to get caught, but evidently they don't in this. And this is when taking the based on a true story and going off on some tangent that just doesn't work.
Did not work at all. I thought the ending was a disaster. And not only that, like, I feel like if you're going to have these people who deserve to die, show them doing something really terrible. Like, we didn't really, if they had actually developed the husband character at all, which they didn't, he was just a cardboard cutout. If they developed him at all and showed him beating her, or she came to him with a black eye or something terrible, she kind of went, he just doesn't let me do anything. I mean, that was literally her line. Why are you killing your husband? He just doesn't let me do anything. Oh, really? So he deserves to die. No. It made me crazy.
Right. And of course, she left him and got a new apartment, all this kind of stuff. So life, let him live his life.
Why is he
dying? So what? Yeah. So what, you see him at a outside of a club and there's a 5-minute interaction. That's the reason
That's the
to
reason.
off him.
And he didn't deserve to have a gun pulled on him either in that scene. I was like, why is everyone overreacting?
I
And
know.
then I know,
Yeah.
like, now,
No,
it's
no,
like
it's so true. Go
that
ahead.
he happened to hire the same hitman. Like they bring the same hit.
No.
It was
And it's
such a
not that
mess.
small of a town. I'm sure there's more than one hitman in New Orleans. So,
Well, the overall concept I loved, which was number one, the fact that hitmen are not these super pro cool. Like,
right.
I love the idea, and they're
Big
just a bunch of Joker kind of characters. Like someone
right.
who I love, like he was doing it for like $2,000. That's what you're doing this for.
No,
I
right.
love the first one because they kind of developed it. They showed him how he drew him in. He talked about what he's going to do with the body, and he kind of created that camaraderie. I wish there'd been more of that. They showed a bunch of quick costume changes, which I thought were fun, but they didn't go
Yeah.
anywhere. You know, it was just real fast, and they just showed corrupt people trying to hire hitmen, and it was kind of like that. And so he had the kind of goofy costumes that no one would buy for a million years. But
right.
I don't know.
It just felt like, and I was watching this knowing it got great reviews, and
Yeah, me
so
too.
it's, you go in expecting, and it's Richard Linklater, so you expect a
Yeah.
certain quality, and in some ways it's there. It's there in his
Yes.
performance and some of the other performances. And there's that great scene with the iPhone, which I thought was
I
really
loved
cool.
that scene. It's
That
the
was
best scene
I
in the
think the
movie.
best scene in the
So
movie.
good.
Really good and
Yeah.
smart and quick, and everything about that was excellent.
Yep.
But then it really went off the rails, to the point where you go, well, these are characters I despise. I mean, if they in real life, if I knew them to do what they do, they're just assholes. So
Yeah, they're assholes, and I wish they had just spent a little more time in the writer's room or wherever they did this of making it twist, because once you do that, you can't trust each other anymore. Like your trust is over. So they started on a lie. Both of them started on a lie. They continued to lie. Then they became killers. So now they both have that on each other. And then I'm like, so who made who kill? She did everything. She was the impetus for everything, and he fell for it. Like he
right.
killed the guy for her to cover her crimes. Like he
And they,
constantly covered for her crimes, and there was nothing in his character or background that would suggest he would do that for anybody. And just
well,
because
that
she's hot and put on a captain's uniform and these ridiculous, oh, we just have sex in my house and that's all we do.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God, it was
Well,
so annoying.
also, it's almost like they turned into psychopaths. Like,
Yeah,
like, or were they like, he's like, there's scenes where he's back in the classroom and he's the normal sort of
mhm.
professor, sort of the likable professor. And if I'm thinking to myself, I'm just dealing with all this stuff going on with murder and
Yeah,
cops, and I
yeah,
could be in trouble. Could I go back to my day job and just be the
yeah.
relaxed, could I do that, or
I know.
I could do it if I was a sociopath or a psychopath or something.
Yes,
So part
exactly.
of me was thinking, is that what this is about? I don't know. So it
I
just
was.
felt like it took a left turn into
It
like,
did.
I don't like these characters anymore, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, because my heart was breaking for him that he went that way. I didn't want him. I wanted him not go that way. Like, why would we want him to be a killer for real? Like, no, nothing in that movie made us root for him to kill someone, especially someone who hadn't really, literally, really done anything besides try to
Right.
extort them, which really wasn't that big a crime, except that they would expose everything he did that was wrong and illegal and bad and covered up a woman's cold-blooded murder. I just
I would
wasn't
have
buying it.
said, like,
It fell
oh, you
apart.
want okay, it's $1 million. We each get a third, and we go our way. Okay, I'm in. You take your
Take it.
$300,000.
Right.
We're done, and
Take it.
and nobody dies.
I
So
think they saw it as like he knows, he'll always know, and all he saw was like he's eventually gonna turn her in, and he should have because she did kill someone in cold blood.
right,
There was no
right,
reason not to turn her in because they didn't spend enough time explaining why these people deserve to die. Number one, that they feel like they didn't have a choice. They all had a choice. They always did, and they chose it wrong every time. And that was the most frustrating thing about the movie to me. And I don't know if that was the message. I think the message was we were supposed to be glad for them at the end, but I didn't want them to be together, have cute kids, and live in a big house. They didn't deserve it.
And as you mentioned, that wasn't the real Gary Johnson's, how that sort of ended up.
Yeah,
So it was just, they took of the bare bones
great
of
setup.
a great setup, and they sort of went with it in a direction that you and I obviously didn't agree with as how it should have gone. But based on what people are saying about the movie, everybody's loving it, saying it's fantastic, and they
Yeah.
they bought into it. So,
They bought into it. But,
we're
I
right, they're
cannot
wrong.
fault
That's
them. It was a great idea, and he was spectacular. And
yes.
I can see why they think star making, and I see it as that. Everybody loves it because he's so great. And that was the only thing. If there had been anyone even tiniest bit less capable, we wouldn't have watched it. We wouldn't have bought it. It wouldn't get all the good reviews. He was the main reason. Even though I would love watching that. Can you imagine if Kieran Culkin did that? Oh, it would have been so much better. You would have believed it if you wanted to kill someone in the end. Like, he has that dark side. Glen Powell does not have a dark side. Nope.
No, he's just very. I mean, when he's likable and he's like throwing a football to the kids at the park, you're like, okay, that's the real guy. Yeah.
Yes, that's who you want. But I did love how he could shift and just become just so hot, and I could see why she was drooling all over him the whole time. But at the same time, not worth killing anyone over.
I just think their relationship was the beginning. It was the main problem with the movie. Like, it's
huge
just
narrative problem.
It didn't sort of move the story forward, or even was as believable as it should have been. So
that's right. But fine, it's on Netflix. It's for free. You get to see an incredible performance by a great actor, and you just sort of let it fly that the female character was underwritten and a cliche, and everyone else didn't deserve to die. And as long as you accept all those things, you'll enjoy it.
And let us know in the comments if we're like, what
are we totally off base?
Yeah, did we miss something? Was there a little plot point that both of us missed that, like, should quelch all these sort of problems we have with the film? I don't think so. I was attuned to it, watching. I'm going.
I was rooting for it. I wanted it to work.
Right.
I loved him. I thought it was great. And then it just went, what is happening?
Oh, well. But let us know. I mean, it's a big movie out there. You can watch it, like Kathy said, on Netflix for free, and let us know what you think. Glen Powell, Adria Arjona in Richard Linklater's Hitman on Netflix.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. See you soon.